It's the moment that focused the eyes of the world on one tiny courtroom in Michigan.
Grant me 5 minutes in a locked room with this demon.
An enraged father lunges at the perverted physician who molested his 3 daughters. A doctor now infamous for treating and abusing hundreds of the most famous female athletes in the world, now getting their chance to confront him.
You took complete advantage of my innocence.
I'm happy you will be spending the rest of your life in prison. Enjoy hell, by the way.
One by one, they face off with the monster.
You were, in fact, the monster that they said you were.
Bravely speaking about the unspeakable.
I can't even remember when the first time was. I just know that I was only 10 years old.
No young athlete was safe from his abuse.
I remember your obnoxious laugh and how loud it was.
150 plus in court and at least 100 more, all sharing the cry, "Me too."
And then you would slurp the drool off your lip. I don't see you laughing now.
They're talking about Larry Nassar, the physician who turned into Dr. Evil.
I want your tushy to be tight.
You've heard about Nassar's despicable deeds. Now you're about to hear firsthand from some of the brave women who refuse to be victims and instead are survivors.
And I think you both have been so courageous.
Today, 6 of Nassar's accusers are entrusting me to tell their stories.
I just have to hug you.
Sharing new details you've never heard until now. Gymnast Larissa Boyce may very well be Nassar's first victim. She claims the abuse started in 1997. That's 21 years ago, long before many he preyed on were even born.
And how old were you when you first met him?
I was 16. He was an Olympic doctor, and so I thought the world of him. I thought I was the luckiest person to be able to be seen by this man.
And what was the injury that brought you to see him?
I had an injury to my lower back when I was practicing, and I slipped off the vault, and then Kathy Klages, my head coach, had recommended that I go see him at his office.
This is disturbing video of Nassar in his Michigan State University office with another young patient.
So instead of doing this force, I want her to think of it as this force.
Look closely at him taping the young girl's ankle.
So this is inch tape and this is 1.5 inch tape.
Watch as he puts the roll of tape next to her leg. She instantly moves the tape in a sort of protective gesture, almost as if to block him.
I know it's hard to talk about, so if you don't want to, that's okay. But do you mind sharing anything about what he did to you?
I have a couple different memories that really stand out, and the worst one that I can remember was he turned the lights off, took his belt off, and I had me undressed from the waist down, and he started performing his supposed medical treatment on me. And then he was making grunting sounds like he was.
And he did this to hundreds of young athletes, molesting them under the guise of a medical procedure.
Somebody knocked on the door, and that's the only reason it stopped. I tried to get up, and he pushed my head back down and said, told me not to move, and kind of laughed this nervous laugh. And I got up really quick and turned around, and his shirt was all untucked, and he was wiping his hands off on a towel, and then he kind of tossed the towel at me and went to the door.
He tossed the towel at you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like so revolted right now.
Yeah.
Larissa says when she complained to her coach, Kathy Klages, Klages told her, "You are the problem, not Nassar."
And I was told that I was wrong. So I really, honestly, I was brainwashed into believing that I was the problem and that I must have a dirty mind.
Wait, so your coach, someone you looked up to that you trusted, told you were wrong?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't realize that she was such good friends with him. I think had I known that back then, I would have never said anything to her. She was like, "No, you must be misunderstanding. I've known Larry for years and years. There's no way he would ever do anything that was inappropriate."
Larissa says she hoped the coach would have her back, but she says Klages ended up stabbing her in the back.
She did not tell my parents. Instead, she called Larry Nassar and told him that I told her about it.
She says at her next treatment, Nassar was primed for a fight.
I was really scared at that next appointment what he was going to say, but he came in, closed the door, sat on his little chair, and rolled up to me and he said, "So, I talked to Kathy, and she told me about your conversation." And he tried to reassure me that it was a medical treatment and it was to help me get better. And I said, "Well, I don't want to get anybody in trouble." I said, "I'm so sorry. It's all a big misunderstanding. It's all my fault."
Oh my gosh.
And then I hopped back up on the table and he continued to abuse me. And I could tell he was angry with me. That time it was much more harsh and like rough, and I just felt like he was mad at me. I had to convince myself that I had a dirty mind, and I wasn't the only girl that came forward that night to Kathy. There was 2 of us that said that he was doing this.
Larissa says Coach Klages called a team meeting and actually shamed her.
She even brought in some of my teammates and asked them in front of me if they had ever felt uncomfortable with how Nassar treated them, and they like a couple at a time, right in front of me. And it was the most humiliating, embarrassing situation, and I think that contributed to the fact that I never wanted to speak of it again.
And as we now know, Larissa isn't the only one.
I remember the first time that he gave me the quote treatment.
Morgan McCall was then a 12-year-old aspiring ballerina with a serious injury.
Why did you first go in to see Larry Nassar?
I was in the ballet studio and I did a move called a tour jeté, which is like a flippy, jumping, turning thing. And when I landed, I was in immediate pain and I collapsed. I had torn both of my hip flexors. He was friendly. He was really warm, inviting, looking back, overly friendly. But I felt like I was in good hands upon meeting him.
So when Larry Nassar started being inappropriate, did you just immediately think, it's okay, it's my doctor?
I was very uncomfortable and I was kind of confused as to what was even happening. But I kept my mouth shut because I just figured it was what I had to do.
If you feel comfortable saying, what was the treatment?
Digital penetration and inappropriate touching in the vaginal region.
And this was for your hips?
Yeah, he explained to me that a lot of muscles connect and tendons connect to something called your pubic symphysis. He used a lot of like medical mumbo jumbo to kind of, looking back, confuse me and make me think it was okay.
And what she says shocked her the most? That Larissa and others called him out long before she was born. And Michigan State University officials didn't do anything about it.
And they could have stopped it, and they didn't.
Do you feel like they should be prosecuted as well, the people who knew and didn't do anything?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They sponsored my assault.
Coming up.
Why couldn't he just do whatever he needed to do with my jeans or my leggings on?
A Crime Watch daily exclusive. The sister survivors who have never spoken on camera until now.
I think I was very possibly the last child that he ever assaulted.
You'll be outraged when you hear what they claim Michigan State did to this 13-year-old.
That's just, abhorrent.
At the 2016 Olympic Games, the president of the USOC said that the USOC would not conduct an investigation and even defended USA Gymnastics as one of the leaders in developing policies to protect athletes.